Hi, my lovely family. How are you today? I'm Paria from magicalords team. We are here with another exciting episode of my spaces. I'm honored to have four people in my space today. I'm so excited for that because it would be so challenging as we have four guests today. Most of you might know these guests from their activity in Tezos community. So it would be more important for those who are active in Tezos. We are going to chat with dear PaperBuda, Myknash, Anubis, and Whale Tank. So make sure that you would bring your paper. We are going to share lots of data today. So yeah, I'm so excited. By the way, don't forget to subscribe my YouTube. We are going to have lots of fun together. And don't forget to check other videos as well. Let's start the chat. Okay, hi everybody. How are you today? Do you hear me?
Doing well.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you. I'm great. I'm great. Maybe in a couple of minutes, Anubis and Beltank just join us so we can just start. Okay, for those who doesn't know us, I'm Paria and Paris is my just lovely co-host today. We are going to have a very nice space today with PaperBuda, Myknash, and Anubis and Whale Tank will join us in the middle. So we are going to share our experiences today and talk about our art journey and some stuffs about Web3. I'm so excited today. Most of you might know these people from their activity in Tezos world, but some of them are active in Ethereum as well. So we are going to hear their stories and their experiences. Thank you for joining me. If you don't mind, please just retweet the space so your friends can join us as well and use the data. Thank you. Let's say hi to PaperBuda and Myknash. How are you guys?
Myknash, how are you, man? Mike fucking Nash.
I'm great.
Doing good, man. What's up?
It's beautiful up here in Michigan right now. The birds are chirping, the sun is out, smoking weed on my patio or my deck that looks like a tree fort. What about you, Mike? What's it like down there in Florida?
Man, it's a good day down here. It's not super hot. We got a little bit of a swell coming out of the south. Kind of a lot of seaweed and kelp. But other than that, man, it's a beautiful day just hanging out in the crow's nest.
I should say hi to PaperBuda and Myknash. Nice to meet you and welcome to our space. Hello, hello.
Hey, thanks for having
Yeah.
me. Thanks for this is exciting. This is cool.
Yeah, thanks for having me too.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. I mostly have some barriers with my internet, so if everything happened, please come back if we were in the middle of the speaking because it might get raggy a little bit as I had rugged now. Just after 2 minutes, I can't just believe it. But that would happen. I'm not nervous. Okay. Let's start with your stories. PaperBuda, you can just go first and we will go to Myknash to hear his story as well. Let's hear your story in art and in NFTs as well. I like to know that.
Yeah, sure. We don't have a couple of days, so I'll try to keep it brief. I grew up in California, up and down the coast in jails and institutions and group homes, and had it pretty rough, kind of living on the street. And my first exposure to art was doing graffiti and DJing in the rave scene. And so this is early 90s in California. And that was really like my artistic outlet as a kid. But because of the rough upbringing and because of like growing up in poverty, I had to make a decision right around 16, 17 to become a full-time drug dealer or continue down the art road and never get paid. And so because of the environment that I grew up in, I became a full-time drug dealer and, did all of that and did pretty well for myself and eventually started a bunch of medical cannabis companies that eventually became legal cannabis companies. And I started selling those and, put myself through business school, but never touched art again. So it was a crazy journey of creating lifestyle brands and creating still, but just not being the artist. And being a creator and the fact that I was the founder of a business and a startup, right? And so that was really um, the extent of my artistic endeavors until about 2 years ago when COVID hit. And I had early exposure to Bitcoin through Silk Road and drug dealing. Love that. Um, always thought of myself as kind of like the good drug dealer, right? I'm not out there doing crazy stuff. I'm just out there with the hallucinogens and the weed and more of a shaman, right? Because society chooses to call me a drug dealer, like fuck them. I was assisting homies that were coming back from the sandbox, coming back from military stuff with tons of PTSD, and that was me. I was the plug in the neighborhood for those guys. And so, yeah. Anyways, through COVID, um, I lost one of the lifestyle brands I was working on, and had to place 35 employees and help them go find new jobs. And I kept bankroll out of my pocket for I think 6 months or so, and that's not cheap, paying people out of your pocket for 35 people, 36 people. And so anyways, came to a point where I had to kind of close the doors, and I was sick of that lifestyle of being an executive, of being in the even though it was legal now, still dealing drugs. It didn't really change. I was still the same person that I was way long ago. The difference was I knew how to speak eloquently in a boardroom. I knew how to get investors to give me money and to create an ROI. All the same shit that I did way back on the street, but I just knew the fancy words now because I went through the fancy school. So, I'd had enough of it and was rereading The Sovereign Individual. Had a little bit of a Bitcoin bag, so I knew about the blockchain. And I wanted to create a life for myself that was as a sovereign individual, where I wasn't beholden to anyone or anything, and that I could literally pick up a bag and go to any country, anywhere, and just remember 12 words and create something on a computer or a phone or an iPad. And so I decided that NFTs was that thing because it had started to heat up. I just learned about crypto kitties. There was some play to earn video games. So I like video games a lot. So there's some play to earn games that were happening on other blockchains really early, like on Wax. Alien Worlds is like one of those games that I think of that was way early to the game. And so I had really early exposure to the scene. I remember having a transaction of like 10 crypto kitties in my wallet, and then the gas fees were crazy. And so I rejected it. I was like, nah, this is stupid. And looking back, like, if you don't know what a crypto kitty is, that was before the punks. So stupid me for not accepting that. But anyway, decided that I wanted to be an artist and tried my hand at a couple of different things that, I tried making some collectible cards because that was really hot on Wax. So a lot of my experience artistically was in Photoshop and creating brand stuff, creating a brand sheet for a new, for the marketing department, or I would get really nerdy on fonts. So I'd be looking at a flyer and I'd be like, the kerning is fucked up on this. And they'd be like, why is the chairman of the board talking about the kerning. Like, what the fuck is going on here? So I was like way nerdy about design stuff, but never in charge of it, never doing it, right? So decided to try my hand at a couple of different things. So I tried those cards. I had decent sales. I learned the mechanics of the blockchain over on Wax, and learned how to do a drop, learned how to do a pack where you could open a pack and it has different randomization. So really early, I got exposed to the potential mechanics and utility of the blockchain in conjunction with the art. If you don't know, Wax is like, I don't know, 9 cents a token right now. So economically speaking, it wasn't appetizing for me. I was like, yeah, no one's ever going to make a living over here unless they're top shit. And so for me, with that philosophy of trying to carve a life for myself as a sovereign individual and to create an income that would replace all the drug dealing bullshit, Wax wasn't really the option for me. So I started to explore. I found Ethereum. I minted a couple of things on ETH. They were like photorealistic collage. And even the early stuff, half of them had Buddhas in it. So it was like clearly a theme for me, wanting to preserve a lot of Buddhist culture on the blockchain, because I saw that there was this ability for me to take traditional art that was maybe thousands of years old and preserve it for all eternity by minting it onto the blockchain. And so like there was this fascination, culturally speaking, for that, because I've been a Zen practitioner most of my life. So anyways, tried a couple of those things. I guess they were pretty good because 3 of them sold in the first 24 hours. I was like shill posting. I didn't know shit about Twitter. I just minted like 6 things. They were 0.1 each, all one-on-ones. And I just started shilling them in the shill post, where people are like, drop your art, I'm buying. I'm like, yeah, right, you are, bro. But I didn't know any better, so I just started shilling. And sure enough, in the first 24 hours, 3 of them got picked up. And then 24 hours later, I got my first secondary. And so I got the dopamine hit right away of like, oh shit, you can make money by doing this. And the magic is in the smart contract. That second day, I didn't do shit, but I made money because of what I did on the first day. And I've lived my whole life kind of under the ethos of yesterday's booze didn't keep me drunk today. Well, this is a game changer. This isn't like that. Yesterday's booze got me drunk today. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? And that like really woke me up, to the possibility of what the blockchain could be. And so I got really bullish on the whole thing, and I made another couple of pieces, and they didn't fly. They didn't go very far. And I listened to a podcast because I'm kind of guy that likes to learn, right? I daily learn all the time. And so I came across this podcast, and it was Des Lacresse, Chemical Messiah, Mendez, and Nikki Papers, who is no longer part of the scene. And they were just having a roundtable talking about bullshit on Rarible, because Rarible was hot at the time. And I was just listening to him, and Josh, Chemical Messiah, who's like one of my best friends now, he said, you're the brand, the gifts that you use, the language that you speak, the presentation of your work, the platforms that you're on, you're the brand, and act accordingly. And that really woke me up as a business guy. I was like, oh yeah, that is the move, right? Like, I need to brand myself, kind of like David Bowie has a Ziggy Stardust. I needed to brand myself, PaperBuda, and come out here with what does that mean for me as a persona, but also me artistically, right? And so there was a huge shift in what I started doing visually. And so my first real mint as PaperBuda was, I think May of 2021. And, I very clearly created a visual aesthetic for myself with guidelines that these are the space backgrounds that I use. I use these specific drop shadows that are inspired by, shadow puppets in Indonesia. So it's a very culturally specific inspiration, or the way that I cut out that everything is very intentional, right? That's the way that we do the shadow puppets in Indonesia. Um, the subject matter is all paper, vintage pulp. You know, it's stuff. It's imagining a future that will never be, that never was, right? Retrofuturism, and the Buddhist art sometimes is thousands and thousands of years old. You know, I'm working on a restoration project right now. Half of my work, people don't know this, half of my work starts with me doing art restoration. I find a really cool Tonka from the 19th century that looks like absolute ass, and I have to sit there and restore it before I can cut it up into a collage. So you know, that's part of my artistic journey is here are the things that I do and don't do as an artist that will create a unified body of work, a unified theme, and some serious storytelling, right? And in order to do that, I had to take a few steps back from minting and from shilling and just really go, all right, what am I trying to do here?
Wow,
Yeah, so
that is so inspiring.
Actually, yes, last night I just checked your account and all of your, I cannot say all of your artworks. And I think, I just thinking about, uh, I think you have a good cannabis for the, to making this amazing art. I love your art. It's really, really beautiful. Actually, it's, yeah, really stunning. And I love all of your piece, and yeah, this is something different. I want to know a little about the concept of your art, because you have a different, collage with something, traditional with the pop art. I want to know a little about the concept of your art.
yeah, so for me as a Zen practitioner in Buddhism, it's Japanese, and our art in my practice is really haiku based. It's word, it's haiku, it's philosophy, it's calligraphy, but there's not a lot of what you see in my work, which is Tibetan, and sometimes you'll see other inspirations, you know, uh, Indian, uh, a lot of Thai, Cambodian, Chinese, some Japanese, but it's primarily a visual Tibetan practice, these Tonka that I use. And so for my personal practice, as I started exploring other forms of Buddhism, I started seeing the visual representation of stories that I had known for decades. Seeing a Shakyamuni Buddha on a Tonka for the first time was kind of mind blowing when you've been reading about Shakyamuni Buddha for a couple of decades and you've never actually seen that thing. And so, in my head, growing up on Buddhism, in this kind of age of Avengers and comic books and all these superheroes and shit, uh, when I was really young, I read pulp because I was locked up in these group homes. I was locked up in juvenile hall, and what they have is like old ass books that no one's trying to read from the 1930s. And so I always gravitated towards the really cheesy pulp stuff. Um, and like I remember reading shit like the Martian Chronicles, right? And it's just got really cheesy art on the front. And pulp art is killer because it was really the first representation of a lot of those ideas into the public consumption, right? And so for me, growing up, I would read these Buddhist stories and I would replace the crazy comic book stuff that I was reading, like X-Men or Avengers, and replace them with the old school pulp and like retell the story. And this was all happening in my head. And so when I finally had the chance to literally put all those things together and make these things that I've always thought of, instead of them riding a six-headed cow, they're riding a rocket, and it's me reimagining and retelling these cultural stories uh, in a way where I'm able to mint them on the blockchain. They all have a ton of deep meaning, and they're either beautiful at a glance, and you can collect them and just have this beautiful thing on a wall, or you can develop a killer relationship with me as a collector and really start to learn all these different stories, and like it's a choose your own adventure thing. I'm really not trying to cram any kind of Buddhist stuff down anybody's throat, but I do want to preserve and retell those stories for eternity, right? And I saw the opportunity to come in and do that. As far as like the actual collage work, I have a really unique process. I do digital collage, so nothing is analog, and I have it split between a couple of different workstations. But it's primarily done on my iPad at a standing desk with a rolling mat, and my Apple Pencil. And so it looks very similar to traditional analog, where they have a traditional analog collage where they have a green mat, an X-Acto knife, they're cutting things up. That's exactly how it looks, but I'm doing it digitally. And I have, you know, hard drives full of stock images that I've collected over the years from, you know, like I'll go to the antique store and I'll go look through all the pulp stuff and old advertisements, and I'll take my iPhone and I'll take all the pictures and I'll catalog them and throw them on my hard drive. Or I've got a huge catalog of books here, you know, at my house, in my studio, of a library that I've built over time. So that's a big part of the process for me too. It's a lot like hunting for records when I was a DJ back in the 90s and creating a playlist. Now I'm hunting for stock images, for source material that I can catalog and say, these are all weird three-eyed monsters eating mushrooms. And I can put them all in one little bucket. And then over the course of the years, you know, I just keep adding to that bucket. And then one day I'm like, dude, there's literally 200 images of these weird mushroom things, dude. What the hell are these? And we can start making really cool collages. So yeah, that's a little bit about the process and kind of how we got here. And then, you know, it was really slow. It took me, when I first minted, it took me 2 weeks to sell out 10 editions at one tez each. It took forever. And then the next drop, I just increased it by like one tez. And so, you know, a lot of people are seeing the success lately, and that's cool. You're seeing kind of the top part of the mountain. You're not seeing all the stuff that went in the bottom. You know, the last year and a half of hustling one tez at a time. I was in a group chat today, and one of my buddies was like, hey, I'm thinking about coming over to tez. You know, do you think it's worth it? And I just linked up my stats. I was like, yeah, dude, I did 62,000 tezos last year. I think it's worth it. You know, like if you come over here and you build a community, you'll do great, you know, and it's on the blockchain. So it's like undisputable. You're just like, yeah, okay. That's cool. Like maybe you don't know who I am. That's fine. But if you look at the stats, you see like this guy's across 3 chains. He's doing 200 something plus ETH. He's doing 60,000 plus tez. He's doing 300 plus sol. You know, it's like you're getting out there and you're learning these things, and it's part of the art. Part of the art is the blockchain. Part of the art is the story that you're telling out there. You know, wallet check people. Are they actually being diverse? Are they actually putting their money where their mouth is? Are they really collecting from all these other communities? You know, and that's part of the art, is that you can look at somebody like Anubis, at somebody like Myknash, and you can see them putting out on the art on the blockchain, and then immediately turning around and taking that and reinvesting it back into the community. And that makes their art so much more potent, right? Because you know that they're moving with purpose. And so I've always tried to be that way too. So yeah, I don't want to take up the whole space because there's other people here. But it's been a long, strange trip, and it's been like one nickel and diamond from the corner since day one. So yeah, I'm really stoked to be here with you guys. Thank you.
Wow, it was so amazing. You know, Paper, the idea behind these spaces is just to know the ups and downs of journey in NFT space, because some people just join the NFT space and they just think that it is so easy to go on with art, with NFT and everything, every stuffs on that. But when you just listen to people who are somehow successful, more successful than others, you can see they had a very tough journey And that's the beauty of this NFT space and Web3. Thank you for sharing your story with us. It was so amazing and actually inspiring. That shows you can just do everything you want. You just need the goal in your life to start something. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Anubis. How are you?
Hey, hello, hello. How's it
Thank you.
going?
I'm good.
Yeah, it's good to hear. I'm excited to be here. You got PaperBuda, my mentor, the good homie in the building. We got a lot of familiar faces in here as well. It's a good day.
Yeah, it is. We mostly heard you in spaces just buying and something like that. So I just decided to hear your story this time. It was so exciting for me to start this space. Thank you for joining. Let's hear Myknash. Hi, Myknash again. Let's hear your story. I really like that.
All right. Hey. What's up, guys? I'm Myknash. I'm an indie artist. I guess amateur collector on Tesla's blockchain mainly. Let's see. Gosh, I don't know where to start. I I grew up. It was a tough time. It wasn't the same kind of tough that Paper Buddha had, for sure. But I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, the American South, the Bible Belt, in a very conservative family, in a very conservative county, uh, and was always kind of an outcast. I basically most of my life have kind of conformed to what others expected or would want. Let's see. I started spending my summers out in the Outer Banks and Virginia Beach. Got into surfing, got into skating, found punk rock, and that that's where I found my tribe, I guess. Is the culture, everything that really kind of swirls around the whole board sport punk rock kind of scene. That's where I found my peeps. I started taking guitar lessons. I was just basically doing that on my own, just wanting to play punk songs. Got approached by a band that was starting. They needed a bass player. I didn't play bass, but I guess that's kind of the story for a lot of bass players. They need it. You can kind of do it. So I joined up and was in a pretty successful punk band as a bass player early on. Uh, things going really good. Doing a little touring around, and they got on the Warp Tour, and right when that was happening, I decided that I wanted to start a family super early. So I ended up leaving the band, getting married super early, and then through that, and I guess I don't all the things that are required of you when you're in charge of family. Kind of my creative music, at least, got put on the back burner. So then I started kind of following the path of least resistance to paycheck. I got into real estate. I was in school for music business, but I started my junior year get selling real estate, getting my real estate license and doing all that, and that turned into growing a real estate brokerage firm, starting a real estate development and brokerage firm, and that was all basically just because I don't know, it was expected of me to make a lot of money. And I got caught up in that and lost myself, really. Fast forward, gosh, to the market crash of 2008. Lost a big, huge multi-office building development during that. Ended up going through a divorce during that. Just a lot of big changes. I kind of took a break from real estate, joined a couple bands, went on the road, and kind of just partied for the next, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. Kind of sowing the oats that I didn't sow in college. And then you know, money started to get scarce again. I got back into the real estate game, and man, it just that quick movement from being in a band on the road to getting back into that game was like just a big shock, and I hated it from the start of that, and stuck in that for about 5 more years, and finally just kind of realized I needed to think about myself and kind of turn the ship around and get out of the fast world of real estate, and decided to roll out to Texas solo on kind of a mental health self care type journey. Only planned to be out there for about 3 months. That turned into 3 years. One of the things that I really liked in real estate was designing homes, working with architects and designing homes, and I had some experience in that. And basically, that was one of the creative outlets I had, other than doing marketing and graphic design and web work for real estate projects and some friends and some startup businesses and whatnot. But anyway, I got into the University of Texas, Arlington, in their architecture master's program. And then COVID hit. The program shut down. I was driving Uber, was flipping mid-century furniture on OfferUp. I mean, when COVID hit, that kind of really put a wrench into my plans. All of a sudden, it's like I gotta start making money. Got into trading just regular stocks and securities, and found crypto. Got into some communities on Twitter that about basically just trading shit coins. Got into Dogecoin kind of early. Was making memes for Dogecoin back in like 2000, and then somebody mentioned NFTs, and I didn't really understand it, and I kind of understood blockchain a little bit at that point, and found NFTs. Kind of fell ass backwards into the NFT world, and subsequently, found a place where I could really be myself, do what I wanted to do, design what I wanted to design, on my schedule, not answer to anybody, and just be authentic and real. And through that, I found started out on OpenSea, found some really great people, really good communities, but just wasn't jiving with me. Still felt kind of corporate, and somebody introduced me, I think it might have been Mumu Span, actually, introduced me to Hen, and got on there, and almost immediately started collecting. I was like, holy shit, I can afford art. I can afford to help homies out. I can afford to be a part of this whole thing on that end. And then pretty soon started minting myself, and actually finding homies out there that vibed with what I was doing, and just building a kind of community around that. And just the whole decentralized kind of anarchy idea of the blockchain really appealed to me. Because I've always kind of been against the grain and kind of outcast and all that. So yeah, and here I am. I don't know.
Wow, that's so crazy. Yeah, I really loved your story. It was amazing. For those who doesn't know Myknash, you might see some events like Tezus for Fear or Tezus for Tezus or something like that. They are from a community in Tezus, a very lovely community that I'm just from them as well. I'm honored actually. That community is Tez Town. If you don't know that, you can just search the Tez Town community. And Mike Nash is just one of the most important person in this town. And he and Lily White, if you know her, they are working together in this town, and they have very interesting ideas, and they are so supporting in this town. So you should just check it out. Yeah, thank you, Mike. It was amazing. Maybe lots of you knows him as a collector, but he has a very powerful art, especially music, as he just mentioned that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And now let's hear Anubis. Hi, Anubis again.
Hello, hello. Listen, I'm loving these stories. Just, listening to PaperBuda and Myknash. That's some good shit. I didn't even know that. Um, well, for me, my goodness. So I started creating digital art 12 years ago. I was actually I was a little kid back then, believe it or not. And in high school, I was just playing video games, and I got really good at it. Started going to tournaments and started creating graphics for esports teams. That's where I initially started out. Um, but I did work for free for years upon years. Like, I didn't know my worth. I was just happy to, help others. And eventually, once I got older, um, I was working some random ass 9 to 5, flipping burgers, and I wanted to do like actually do more with my life, and started an LLC with a rapper in South Florida. We actually created a record label, and that's where I started to take this stuff seriously. I started, researching marketing, branding, advertising, you know, the actual like social gimmicks behind um, social media marketing, and just just everything that ties into the business end of what we do as artists on social media. And I wholeheartedly pushed this artist with everything that I had. And in 1 year, no, sorry, in 2 years, he went from, 3 songs, 1,000 plays each, to 3 million streams on Spotify and SoundCloud. So he eventually started living off of the revenue streams. And so that was primarily my business tactics that I used, including, the shows that we went to. But unfortunately, at the age of 19, 20, I wasn't really up to par with all the legal paperwork behind business. And I did get squeezed out of the company. So I did join the military back in 2019, and I've been in ever since. But during that time being in the military, I kept up my graphic design, just expanding all different types of mixed media. And actually, at this point, in Photoshop, I work with about 75 to 150 layers of just blending, manipulation, different cutting out, just like PaperBuda was saying, like us collage artists, if we take our craft seriously, it's like a whole experiment going on. But yeah, so also something beautiful happened last year in 2021 was you know, Twitter Spaces just came out, and it was like this new big thing, right? And everyone was like, "Oh my God, Twitter Spaces, we can talk to each other." And and yeah, I was just joining. You know, at first I just wanted to kind of catch the atmosphere, how Twitter Space was going, but I started to see that there was a lot of flaws, right? You know, there's these, I guess, power hungry people, you know, being the host and saying, we need to build community and give back to our community. But I didn't see any giving, you know. I didn't see any giving. I didn't see the generosity. I didn't see that community building as the people were talking about. Um, so I was like, you know what? Last Halloween in 2021, I was actually by myself because my wife was out of town. And I was like, damn, like if I'm alone on this holiday, I bet you there's a ton of people who are antisocial, sitting behind their computer screens, just looking at their NFTs, waiting to get sold, and jumping into Twitter Spaces, just like waiting. And I was like, you know what? Let me just swap some Ethereum over to Tezos, and I'm just gonna start buying artwork. Like I'll just join a space and see how it goes. And I could not believe what that impact did that day. Like that completely changed my entire perspective on the NFT scene, on what's possible. And I reached out to one of my good friends, Bandy, another soldier, and I was like, listen, how can I amplify what I just experienced today? He's like, well, I guess we can get a bunch of collectors together, and you know, we can kind of make it like a TV show almost. And I was like, yo, what if we tie in some concepts from Shark Tank? And he's like, dude, whale tank. I was like, oh my God, that's perfect. And so whale tank, you know, was birthed that day. And I reached out to PaperBuda. I reached out to pretty much anyone I knew who was actively supporting the community. And yeah, I mean, it's been a roller coaster ever since. You know, almost 8 episodes starting tomorrow. Um, of just like, you know, crazy success stories. Um, you know, some terrible ones as well. But a lot of drama, but a lot of like beautiful moments that I will take with me in my entire life, just through Whale Tank. And it's an absolute pleasure to be up here. And yeah, thank you so much.
Actually, I want to ask one question because you speak about the community and yeah, when in the, for example, last year, everybody when we speak about the community, speak about some dreams that there. This is not. We don't have something like these dreams in this community, but how we can make this community more organic? What is your opinion to make this community more organic, to make a little in the, go to the working in the dream way, to support each other? What is the best way you think? Do you think about this?
To be honest, and this is kind of, not many people want to hear this, but there's a lot of toxic positivity in Twitter Spaces. Like I get being positive, you know, but please be real with one another, because if you tell someone that they're doing the absolute best work you've ever seen and you're lying and they walk away, that does nothing for both of you. First off, you just lied to someone that, you know, that's your community, and that person walks away with their head held high and then gets shit on by the next person. So it's like, the one thing that really needs to change is be more have more constructive criticism, right? Like, don't be afraid to speak your mind and try to elevate. Like, be respectful, but also just, elevate people, you know, like, do better. Like, I see that you're trying, some new tactics. Well, now double that and do better. Like, I know that's a little hard to hear at first, and you're like, wow, like, oh my God. But it's like, that's how you grow. And I also think, like, as far as building organic community, it's tough. It's really tough. Only because most of the time, what we want to do is only cater to the people we know. But can you genuinely give to people that you just met? And that's a question that I'll let everyone linger with. And then that's where the beauty is, I think.
Thank you, thank you. Star, hi. Do you want to add anything to this?
Oh, I did, and then I didn't, and then I did, and then I didn't. And I was like, shit.
Yeah, I just get that.
Or maybe I'll just not. Or, well, is that being combative? Well, no. No, when you were talking, I just, it's like one of those things. Well, if you don't got something good to say, don't say it at all. Which was kind of what I was thinking when you were sharing there about giving people constructive criticism and not being dishonest. I couldn't agree with you more. Like, I really don't think that we should be going out of our way to tell somebody something is great when it's not. But I also, I guess for me, don't feel like it's my place to tell somebody what the blood, sweat, and tears and emotion and time and energy and pain they may have, transmuted into their art is. Like, I'm not God enough to tell somebody that it is good enough or not good enough, because we're not at work, right? Like, nobody here's my boss. But if it's asked for, I listened to Tony Payne's podcast before I ever came into Twitter, before I ever got a Twitter handle. And I was listening to all her podcasts to learn everything I could about NFTs. And she said something that really stood out to me, and it's kind of in conflict to what you're saying, Anubis. And but you seem like the kind of person that could just respect an opposing opinion, and I appreciate that. I think PaperBuda's same kind of cat. But just that, when you don't have something positive to say about somebody's art, just don't say anything. I mean, unless they ask you for their opinion. But even then, sometimes it's just best not to. You don't know what you're crushing. And we all buy art for different reasons too. I buy art to buy into community. I buy art because I feel bad for somebody's story. I buy art because I actually like the art. And I buy art because I think maybe I could flip it. So I sort of buy for all different reasons. I just wanted to chime in.
So caveat. That's why I really want to emphasize the respect part.
Yes, you did. Yes.
Like the respect is universal. I mean, any language. Listen, I've been around the world many times, and even though I couldn't speak their language, we would respect one another.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even though we're not face to face, there's a certain respect that needs to be had, regardless if you have, 100 followers, 50, a couple thousand, 20,000. There's a certain respect between one another. And I wouldn't ever just randomly go, listen, your art is kind of amateur, do a little better. No, I would never do that. When it comes to asking me, what am I doing wrong? Like I'm trying my hardest, this and that, and I would give my most professional opinion on what I've experienced and how to better yourself. And you can absolutely take what I say with a grain of salt, but I've been around the tree a couple times. But yeah, honestly, respect first, and then everything comes after that.
Wow. Thank
I
you.
I,
And okay,
I
go on.
can I cannot speak about this view too much because it's a really nice conversation. But see, yeah, I totally agree with you. Respect to each other. It's very actually help us because when we respect to somebody, also we get some respect. It's better for us, and yeah, I think being kindness to each other is better. And this platform and this way, this journey, it's really huge for everybody. And yeah, we can make a different world, you know, outside the dark. We, the real people come here outside our avatar and our voice. We have normal people in the reality, and they have different side, dark side, and yeah, bright side. But we can manage it when we are in the spaces. Yeah, thank you very much for your opinions. Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And PaperBuda, do you want to add anything to this topic? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I think just because of my kind of philosophical background, I don't usually offer an opinion unless asked for like mentorship directly, with the exception of putting myself in certain spaces to do that on a regular. So I'm part of the spaces with Marianne and her whole crew. The whale tank is obviously an example of really public mentorship. And so really being able to give the feedback, but that is a situation where people are asking for it. My really good friends, like Myknash, I've definitely hit up in the DM and just said like, "Hey, have you thought about doing this thing, or have you thought about doing that thing?" Or, some of the homies in the audience, like Cole. Cole is becoming an artist right now, and so he's like a full time artist. I mean, living completely on the blockchain. And so a lot of times I'll just like DM him and be like, "Oh, hey man, have you thought about this?" Or "Hey dude, have you thought about that?" Because I've learned this term from Misam. I'm neurodivergent, so I just kind of like I'm all over the place, and I'm thinking a million miles a minute. So there are people that are close to me in my life, and that I know my like in the real world. We've hugged each other many times in many different places and all over our bodies, and same with Cole. And so I have no problem like hitting him up in the DM and being like, "Yo, have you thought about this thing or that thing?" Or, "Ooh, maybe don't move that way." Because I would want them to do the same for me, right? That's the inner circle, watching each other's back. And that's important as an artist, as you come into this thing, that you develop that inner circle of people, of people that you trust, that you get into a few group chats across a couple of different platforms, and have that inner circle of people that can check you. That's really important. It is a business. The second you sell your first piece and you accept money, you're in business, baby. And now you have a responsibility. And so I think part of that responsibility is being honest with each other if it's going to be detrimental to business. But really, my first inclination is to let people come and ask for the help if they're looking for it.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And Mike, do you have anything to add or any vision? I want to know your vision as well.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, as far as things that can be done for organic growth, let's what I found, I think, you know, be yourself. You know, there's no, you know, everybody else is taking type thing. And just do a little bit of homework, you know, study. That's the cool thing about blockchain, is that it's pretty damn transparent, and you can kind of weed out some peeps that aren't working towards organic community type growth, kind of doing that. I guess just kind of find your crew, find your homies, find people that are vibing with you, art that you dig. Gosh, and it's becoming so much more than art. And I mean, music, you know, books, poetry. There's so much going on, and you don't have to be an artist either. I mean, there's a lot of different hats you can wear on the chain. You know, there are collectors, there are traders, there are gamers. You know, there's just investors. So I'd say be yourself. I mean, I think there's a place for everybody on the chain. And I think if your motives are off, I kind of naturally will kind of just dwindle, I think. But try to support the peeps that are real and that are in it for the right reasons. And I think that's kind of how it'll grow good organically, I guess. I mean, you know, I think that's what we're talking about. It's kind of a real community of people that love each other, that aren't out to take advantage of each other.
Thank you, thank you. You know, from my side, if I want to say something, you know, it really depends on what is your goal in NFT space and in Web3 space. And acting is just depend on your goal, your steps, your roadmaps, everything that you are just shaping your future with. It is all depend on your goals, what you want from this Web3 thing. And yeah. And about talking about others' art, you know, I mostly agree that somebody must come and ask you for help to help them, even if you can just help them, because you know there are lots of different kinds of stories and visions. You know, all of us are just coming from different cultures, educations, and something like that. So when we want to talk about someone's art, it is just our taste, and we cannot talk about it generally. So it is a little hard to go for that. But I really respect all of your visions. Thank you. Okay, does anybody want to ask or make any connections, or I can just go on? Okay, everybody seems so quiet. Why Tezos? Why did you choose Tezos? It's my question. I know Anubis is just going with Ethereum, and I know PaperBuda is just trying to go on super rare. But you just started, I think, somehow on Tezos, and also you are more active on Tezos, as I saw. Okay, Anubis, go on.
Yeah, so Tezos is almost like the little sweet spot in the NFT community. You know, obviously, a lot of us as artists came in here to, you know, actually live off of our art. You know, that's a lot of our end goals. But there's something that happened when you joined after that mindset where you're like, okay, that vision was not really, it's not feasible without all the in between connections and beautiful friendships that you start to make every day that you join. And I think Tezos was one of the places where the community was different. Like you can automatically just tell that the whole atmosphere and chemistry of people was totally different. It wasn't much of a, you know, how can we, you know, drive our NFTs to, you know, 5 Ethereum and then I'll make you like, you know, 20 Ethereum. No, it was more of like this beautiful like family that you start to build within Tezos. And I always bring this up during Whale Tank, but someone told me that Tezos was, you know, like a dark, like grungy New York alley where artists are just standing around smoking cigarettes and painting the walls with graffiti. You know that, and PaperBuda always talks about that punk rock type of style to Tezos, and I think it's remained like I don't think it's changed much, but for some of the new people here that might not know anything about Tezos, Tezos started out being like the underdog blockchain because of how high Ethereum was at the time. Ethereum was like $3,000 up to 4,000, and a lot of people can't afford that. You know, wherever you are, the currency that your country has doesn't equate um, correctly to how the dollar is to Ethereum. Um, so Hikignak was born from a Brazilian dev, and yeah, it was like the perfect place. Like the gas fees are like a couple cents in dollars, and even just the NFTs themselves, people were doing high editions for like point 0.5 tez or you know 1 tez or 3 tez, something that was like, I don't know, that's so cheap to someone who's working with hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And when I saw it, I was like, whoa, like this art is so good, but you're charging so cheap. But I also didn't realize that a lot of artists were equating that cryptocurrency into their own currency in that country that they're in. I was like, wow, like if I even bought a couple of their NFTs, that might actually change a lot in their life. And so it was like the perfect place to start Whale Tank. It's still the most amazing community I've ever seen, and I will forever call Tez a home.
Wow, good answer. Thank you. And PaperBuda.
Yeah, man. Well said, dude. Yeah, so some of you guys know my super rare struggle. It's really a meme. It's really a joke. I don't really need to be on super rare. Like I've done really well on ETH. I've closed plenty of auctions above 2 ETH. You know, Tezos is my home. I came to Tezos because I didn't like the bro crypto culture, the Chad bullshit that I saw on Ethereum. I've always been counterculture. Again, coming back to the graffiti, DJing in the rave scene in the '90s. Let me tell you what that actually meant. That meant us backing up a U-Haul full of sound equipment with bolt cutters and cracking open an abandoned warehouse and throwing a fucking party with a ton of drugs and no permits and nothing, just completely underground. The only way to like get there was to know somebody and go to a map point. Like this is way pre-internet stuff, so I'm way about the underground. The biggest reason I left the executive life that I had was because it became an executive life. Was because I looked around and saw the fucking shiny shoes and saw the sellouts around me, and I was like, I'm not about this. And I got that same exact feeling when I started minting on Ethereum the first time. And so I immediately found Tez and was like, yo, this is like sub pop records in the '90s up in Seattle, like Nirvana playing in, you know, the tiny little bar that no one's heard of. They're at the Moore Theater, dude, and there's like 40 people, and fucking Kurt Cobain's going ham, dude. And that's exactly what Hen felt like. If you weren't smart enough to figure out how the minimalist interface worked, peace. Go back to Ethereum, dude. If you couldn't figure out how to like scoop that guy that's doing super sick art from Indonesia for one Tez, sorry, man, you're missing the boat. That's like them's the breaks in crypto. And so I loved how Wild West it was. I loved how decentralized it is. Tez has never gone down. Since the day it started, it has never gone down as a blockchain. It's decentralized. The original founder of Hen had an emotional breakdown, freaked the fuck out, took the site down. Within a week, the community had a clone up and we're rocking and rolling, no problem. Object.com is born out of that chaos, right? And there's a pretty great platform to look at. FX Hash is born out of the Gen Art craziness that starts to happen. So the communities self-organize. It is truly open source. I can go throw 6,000 Tez in a wallet. I can become a baker, and 6,000 Tez ain't much when you're looking at playing across Ethereum, Solana, Tez. You know, you put that into a wallet, and you have a say. All of a sudden, you can start being a part of these proposals, and you can, you know, it's very attainable to make real impact on this blockchain. And then the international, when I first started collecting on Hen, it was a Turkish event. It was the most international vibe ever, right? I stepped into the scene and it was super punk rock people from Turkey minting on a blockchain. At the time, Turkey was being censored just like Iran and Cuba is right now. And so to see these dudes and these chicks minting punk rock artwork in a country that banned all that shit, that was coming down hard on people, I was like, not only is this punk rock, but my one Tez is going to go way further in that person's pocket than in that fucking crypto kitty bullshit that I just saw, right? And so really understanding that there was social impact happening, that it was global, that it was decentralized, that it couldn't be stopped and you couldn't be censored. And I'm in to this day, 80% of what I do is on Tezos. I'm diehard Tez. I fuck around in Ethereum, had fun making 200 ETH last year minting stuff. That's my side hustle. Ethereum is reaching for the stars, swinging for the fences. Yeah, super rare would be great validation amongst my peers. It's another mountain to climb. What would I do with that? I would get involved with the super rare community to elevate collage. Every other little bit of Ethereum would come right the fuck back to Tezos because that's where I'm diehard. Over in Solana, it's the same thing, man. I love like messing around in Sol, having a good time exploring a new blockchain, but that shit's centralized. That's Chads. There's a bunch of shiny shoe shit over there. I don't care how they try to mask it. And so, yes, I'll play over there. Yes, I'll make my collectors that enjoy my work on Sol a bunch of money. Everything else is coming back to Tezos, baby, because I honestly, truly, deep in my core, believe in Bitcoin and Tezos. Everything else, it doesn't have the same power, man. It doesn't have the same power to create real world change, to crumble banks, to get rid of governments, to transcend censorship, and to really remove the middleman, and to really to really speak to the core of what Web3 is and what Satoshi originally intended cryptocurrency to be about. And Tezos and Bitcoin are still that to this day. So until it changes, I'm so fucking punk rock and bullish on Tezos. It could be, whatever, a penny, and I'm still in. So yeah.
Well said. I really like what you said, and I really agree with that. Hi, Money. How are you?
Hey, Magical, how are you? I just
Thank
wanted
you.
to say
I'm
hi,
great.
quick
I'm
hi.
great. Yeah, I just know that you have to go, and I really appreciate your presence. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, fam. I really appreciate whatever you are doing. It's really amazing. Paper Buddha, oh my God, your artworks are really dope, fam. It's really, really, really amazing. And you were talking about music festival DJing and stuff like that. I'm a big fan of it personally. So I am planning on smoking some weed and looking at your artworks like right now. I can't afford one, but yeah, definitely going to look at it. They are crazy. Oh my God. I can literally feel the chills. They're crazy. And
But
I know,
Money, he just left with.
hmm? Sorry?
Yeah, he just told us. Okay, maybe you should just talk to him sometimes. Yeah, but art is addictive. Nobody just can help you with that. Okay, thank you. Am I right or Money just got
No,
you?
no, no, no. I got a call. I got a
Yeah,
call.
you're good.
That was my dealer actually. I told you I'm scoring some weed right now, Magical. Actually, I'm scoring some.
Oh my God, don't tell me that. Okay, yeah, I'm just kidding. Thank you. Thank you for joining. And let's hear your vision, Mike.
All right. Well, Tesla's a lot of the reasons PaperBuda said. I mean, when I came over, it was hard to figure it out, to get on. There's, to actually get to the point of collecting and minting. It was pretty difficult early on because there just wasn't a lot of devs or tools on it. And so by the time you got onto the chain, into the space, there was almost like this kind of homey feel already. It's like, oh, you made it too. It's like we're here now. It's like we went through the trenches and now we're here. And I don't know. And getting on, I mean, to speak to the devs and open source, I mean, it really, really, truly is decentralized and open source. And that was one of the things that I really liked about it in the beginning, trying to learn about everything, is that these devs were accessible. I could call them up, I could ask them questions, I could maybe get an idea for a tool, and then it would happen. and then to find all these other developers. And I mean, I don't know anything about code, but I guess I know enough about GitHub, or there were some cool dApps that were web based, and to get on there and really start to answer the questions I had through these tools. I'm basically any question you might have about how everything works, about what your collection's like, anything that you want to know to kind of meet whatever goal that you have. The tools are there, and if they're not there, there's homies that are like standing by. That was one of the things I loved about it. And I guess as far as an investor and collector type look at it, I mean, you could go in and buy 1,000 different works of art for 1,000 tezos, and then it's art that you love. You can go out and you can support those artists. You can promote their art, and you could turn around and sell it for 2 tezos. You do that enough times, and you make, hell, I mean, coming from a regular investment kind of return, annualized type deal, I mean, hell, you don't have to make 100% on your money too many times. It's just wild to me, and to be able to not just be trading numbers and charts and lines and building a community and getting to know homies and helping people all over the world reach their goals and get out of tough spots and stuff. I mean, hell, I'm here to stay. I'm sold out.
Yeah, the thing that I myself like about Tezos is the growing that you can see in Tezos community and platforms. And they are so reachable. When you have some problems on, for example, object, you can just go to their Discord, and after maybe some days you see they just fix it and everything is just going so well. I really like that features, those features that we can find on Tezos. It's really great. Okay, Paris John.
I want to ask one question because I'm thinking too much about this question. Actually, I want to ask, do you think the future of NFT based on Tezos blockchain for the most of the artists? Because as you said, the Ethereum is for stars to make them rich, but for the normal people that wants to makes a decentralized world, is it the future of NFT? It's really based on the Tezos blockchain.
That's a fantastic question. I think about that a lot. I'm lucky to have gone through the entire legalization of cannabis in the United States, and to watch what that did, to watch what it did to something that was tradition. So I'm a little background. I'm a 3rd generation hashishan, coming from a family that has been in the weed game for a really long time. And so to watch that come out of the hills, and to watch that come out of what we call tribal knowledge, where nothing's really written down, and to watch that come into the public eye slowly through medical. Oh wow, there's a value to this, and then a bunch of proof all over the place, and then a legalization push, and then a corporatization, and then all of a sudden this stuff that was written down in composition books and hidden from society is now an SOP and part of a corporation. And in that happening, there were lifestyle brands, we call them artisanal brands, legacy brands, the actual weed people, the people that were driving the culture. And then you have kind of mid-tiered people, teams of them teaming up with investors, squares and culture getting together. And then you have on the top end of it, squares, and they come in with a ton of money and they buy every license and they buy all the talent and they become huge international conglomerates. The exact same thing is happening here across different blockchains. On Ethereum, we see the last thing that I just talked about. We see the big corporations coming in, VC money. We see crazy sales, and those are outliers. That's not common. Okay, that's every now and then you have a big Fortune 500 company. That means 500 companies out of all the companies in the entire world, right? So that's what you're looking at when you're looking at ETH. You're looking at Fortune 500 stuff. And yeah, of course, that's not everybody. This is just how I view the ecosystem generally, right? Solana is kind of a new up and comer. I look at that as the marriage of culture and chads. Very much what we would see the majority of weed now in the United States is made by a combination of people that understand business and people that understand culture and getting together and allowing one to do what one is good at. You grow the weed, I'll go do the business. Okay, that's what we see happening on Solana. You come in and do the art, we'll make the PFP, we'll do the marketing hype, boom, 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 right? So that's all happening behind the scenes. The real deal, everyday driving culture is happening on Tezos. I can talk to my neighbor about cryptocurrency. My neighbor works at the local hardware store. She's probably 75. Okay, I could go talk to her in Michigan right now about cryptocurrency, picking up a couple of Tezos, and collecting some cool digital art. And that's not something she doesn't understand, right? And I could tell her like, yo, there's people from all over the world that basically come to like a farmer's market, man, where you can cruise on your computer at home and find cool art that you like, and I'll show you how to put it up on your wall if you want. I can like have that conversation with anybody I meet anywhere. Now try having this conversation about ETH and saying, so first of all, one ETH is like $1,700. She's like, yeah, well, fuck you. That's my whole paycheck. Okay, so the conversation's over before it even started, right? So there's a mental hurdle to even like really getting in there. So there's a certain level of privilege, global privilege, that specifically like an American-centric privilege that is required to be on Ethereum, just fucking flat out. I say that as an American guy that has spent 20 years traveling the globe, has a pretty good idea of what American privilege really means. I was a white guy that grew up in a black neighborhood. Like I know things about these things. And that's really what's going on ETH. The barrier to entry is just too damn high for a normal person. And so we're not going to onboard people. We're not going to hit critical mass. We're not going to change the lives of people in Brazil, Indonesia, Argentina, Turkey, Iran, Cuba. These are the homies that are getting censored on Ethereum. Censored? Dude, I joined the blockchain not to be censored. This is the whole purpose of this thing. So anyways, yeah, Tezos, I think, is the future of day-to-day activity. But I think that the future is a blend of all of these things, just like the weed world looks today. It's a blend of all these things. And if I want the best weed, I go to the small guy. I go to the like, oh, there's 5 people that are working in that spot. It's all organic and their shit's more expensive. Fine. I'm about supporting those guys, dude. Because I don't want the B grade bullshit. I'm looking for the up and coming emerging artists, because the ones that are really the diamonds in the rough, they're going to go all the way through that Tez ecosystem. They'll learn how to play with everybody. They'll learn how to have a top shelf. They'll learn how to have a mid shelf. They'll learn how to have something that's easily accessible to everybody, right? So the future is all these things working together. We see Super Rare starting to do it. They're talking about integrations with Mural and with Phantom Wallet, which means integrating Sol, right? We see OpenSea's already done that. We see Solana is trying to add other coins to their ecosystem. We saw Rarible take a swing and a miss at integrating Tezos, but there's the future is really all these things working together, and you'll just be able to go to one or two cool, hopefully decentralized platforms where you can just, that's the art that I like, and it doesn't matter if it's in Tez, ETH, Near, Wax, whatever, Bitcoin. I have friends that are starting to really experiment with minting on Bitcoin right now. So who knows? But the future is all of it working together.
Yeah, I mostly tell you that your art is amazing. Never mind it is on Tezos or Ethereum. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Money, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I got a call and I was talking with PaperBuda and I was like, oh my god, your art is really, oh my god, bro. I'm so sorry. I know that this is supposed to be questions and answers, but damn, bro, I'm absolutely in love with the art that you have. It's definitely trippy. I, it's amazing, fam. It's amazing. And Magical Lords, why are you butchering his name? Just read the description, fam. It's PaperBuda. Why are you doing that to him?
I love that.
I didn't get your question, actually, Money.
Make sure you look at them. So I do them all to be viewed on a big screen, right? So when I'm working on a 72-inch display in front of me, and I can only zoom. That's at 50%. So really, to look at it like at full zoom, you're looking at 108-inch display or bigger. And then if you turn the brightness way up, the shadows will pop out, and you can see all the shadow work.
Oh my god! Thank you so much, bro. Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mike and Anubis, do you want to add your visions to this question?
Yeah. As far as let's see the future. I think Tezos has what it needs. I think as far as decentralized, open source availability. When I was in school for music business was when the whole kind of Napster thing was going on with downloading music. They called it pirating. The Recording Industry Association was fining regular old homies like $200,000 because they didn't pay for a song. And the music industry didn't know what to do. All of a sudden, people could hear music, consume music without having to go to the record store, buy a CD. Wouldn't have to wait for the album to come out. Songs could be accessible as soon as they were ready. And there was a lot of pushback with the industry as far as, to get a song to the consumer required a hell of a lot of people and a hell of a lot of expense when it came to manufacturing and distribution and marketing and all that. And I kind of feel that same feeling with visual art and the blockchain, how maybe the old way of doing things, it's being disrupted, and it's becoming a place where creators can be in control of their own intellectual property, and they're not beholden to corporations or bosses, really. And I mean, it's freaking amazing, and it's not. I see it happening with art, music, but all kinds of other aspects. Being able to cut out the middlemen, cut out the guys that are. They say the guy with the most gold makes the rules. Well, not in Web3, not in decentralized blockchain world. At least let's keep that going. And I think that Tezos is a place for that to happen. So yeah, future of NFTs in all aspects, all file types, and everything to come. I think Tezos is on the track for sure.
Nice, thank you. And Anubis?
Yeah, so as far as Tezos becoming like the one cryptocurrency, I don't know. I really don't know. This space moves so fast. I mean, if you take a vacation for a week and don't open Twitter, you just missed a year's worth of information. So who knows? Like I've seen like platforms come up and then fall off. I've seen people come up and fall off. All I know is that if we hypothetically speak about each platform as nature, I think Tezos has the most fertile soil for any artist to come up. You know, if you're a Tezos artist and you unfortunately cannot afford an Ethereum or enough to pay for gas fees on Ethereum to get started, I really hope that you learn from, PaperBuda, Myknash, myself, and some of the collectors that we kind of surround ourselves with, and get enough Tezos so that you can put some aside and swap it over for Ethereum so you can level up as well. I think it's more of a stepping stone, but also I think it'll always be fertile soil for generations to come. And I'll probably leave it at that.
It was a hard question, Pardis-chan. Yeah, thank you. Okay, Mana, before you just get rugged again, you can just go on. Hi.
Hello, dear Pardis, and also hello to PaperBuda, Myknash, and Anubis, and Mani as well, and all the beautiful friends here in this space. Thank you very much for your great stories. Actually, they were so inspiring and so I think helpful to hear all the stories, I think, and all your visions was really nice, I think. A question I have regarding, example, for myself and many other artists in this NFT, there's also a question if we want to be on, for example, Ethereum platform and Tezos platform as well. It's really difficult to, make a balance. And for example, all the collectors say, yeah, that if you place the work on Ethereum and then place something similar to that on Tezos in a cheaper price, it's of course not good and acceptable for the collector. And it's obvious, I think. It's something that we can understand, but it's really, I think, difficult because for example, for me myself, I have lots of different styles of art, so I had done this, but still I'm afraid to make something and make my actually image something bad in front of the collectors. So what's your advice on this regard? Because I think many of the artists have this question. Can comment on that? I would appreciate. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think first of all, you don't have to feel pressure to mint anywhere other than Tezos. I know a lot of people that do great on Tez and never ever go to another chain. So if you don't feel comfortable going to another chain, I wouldn't. To address your question about pricing, what I do is I set my reserves low and let the market dictate the price, and then I'm never really beholden. So right now I have a drop that is the exact same quality of work that I put out on Ethereum. It's my pinned tweet. It's a huge, amazing piece that took me a week, and it's the top 20 offers above 20 Tez. And so, and I've added a physical, a signed physical if somebody puts a certain amount of an offer up, right? But that way, even if it doesn't fly, say only 15 of them go, well, I have 5 team members that I can kick off some of those to, and I'm really not hurt about it. And like the responsible thing for me to do then is to burn it, to distribute it to my team and to burn it, and then to just move on to the next thing. But no one's ever going to be mad at me if the market is slow and I get a low close, right? My existing collectors that have scooped things at 500-600 Tez, they're not going to be mad if something closes at 100. The last auction that I held closed at 80 Tez, which is incredibly low for me, especially in a bear market. That means like my work sold for like $90 US. So the people that bought stuff at 500 Tez when Tez was $4 a piece, they're not mad at that, man. Them's the breaks. That's the market. But if I was doing fixed price stuff, then I could get into some issues with that being a cross-chain artist. So I set up a collection. I figure out what I want the baseline reserve to be, and then that's what I do. So with my PaperBuda buddies, I've got 222 that I'm creating. I think I'm on number 85 right now, and they're all like hand done. Every single one of them has a 7.77 Tez reserve when I list the auction. If no one's paying attention, someone can scoop one for 10 Tez, man. And that's cool. Them's the breaks. I like it. My Ethereum collectors like it too. It's punk rock. My Ethereum collectors know when I'm over there and I'm minting on my custom paper contract that comes with real life utility, like me covering their food, their lodging, and their party favors at big NFT events. They know that the reserve is 1 ETH. They know that that's a different scenario because it has different utility. And you know, some of them close at 1 ETH, some of them close at 5 ETH. And again, that's the market dictating the price. So I'm never, as the artist, feeling weird about the value that I offer. I'm just putting it out there in the most accessible way and letting the market figure it out. And sometimes I like doing a little shock drop where no one's paying attention. It's a bear market. It's a Saturday. It's the first time I'm doing a physical. It's a fucking huge deal. None of my Ethereum collectors know about that. None of my Sol collectors are paying attention today. A couple of my Tez guys, maybe. And I like that. I like that it's underground and punk rock. And my collectors like that too, because if they're paying attention today, they're going to make a killing. And if they miss the boat in 2 weeks, they're going to be like, oh man, I missed the boat. I'm going to have to go play secondary. So once you start having a bigger collector pool, I think that matters a lot less. And you just send it, announce to your community, and try to make it as fair as possible on primary. But I haven't been in a situation where I've got heavily botted like some of my friends have. And then you have to really start getting into different mechanics, but that's like further down the road. The simplest answer I could give really is do auctions, low reserve, and let the market dictate your price as soon as you feel like you have a big enough collector base to support that.
Thank you. And Anubis and Mike, do you want to add anything?
No, I think PaperBuda hit it right on the nail.
Yeah, okay. Paris John, did you want to add anything?
Actually, I think Mana has a different question. Mana, please go on after you.
Thank you very much, Paradison, and thank you, PaperBuda, for your great answer. Actually, I just noticed your, the Twitter that you mentioned this strategy, and it was very interesting for me. But something that if you can also give more explanation on that, because I think you can do that as you mentioned, because you have now good collectors and you are well known, and of course your art is something amazing. It's not, I cannot comment on that. It's something really beautiful. But for example, if someone wants to start, you mentioned something that I think, if I got it right, you mentioned that you started with very low prices on Tezos, and before that you were on Ethereum, but you changed your account or something, and started another I think landing. Is it right? And if you can comment on
Wait,
Is
am I
that right?
rugged? Am I rugged,
No,
or is she rugged?
No,
no,
I think she
sure.
rugged a little bit at the end of her question there, but I think I got the majority of it. So when I took a step back from first minting on Ethereum, the things that were really prohibitive was the gas. The culture was a problem for me, and so I found Tezos, and really part of the realization was like, if I moved to a new neighborhood and I didn't know anybody, I'd have to start at the bottom. I have to go out on the corner, meet new people, and like get my art in the hands of people. And so I started a 10 edition at one tez, and I was just like, all right, man, let's see if I can even do this. Let's see if I can sell one, you know, and that took 2 weeks. And then the next drop was two tez, you know, and that took another 2 weeks. And it was a weird drop of me messing with mechanics. And I did a 5 edition that one person scooped at 20 tez. So I ended up burning 4 and creating my first 101 out of it. But, you know, it was like really slow going. And I didn't first mint as PaperBuda on Ethereum until I had a pretty solid tez base. Until I was solidly selling out 20 editions at 20 tez in a 24-hour period. Once I hit that milestone, I said, all right, I've got enough of a community that I bet one of these people would buy something if I put it on ETH. And so that's what I did. But that was a really long process. It took me 6 months of minting on tez before I felt like I had solid enough footing to start asking for bigger bucks, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't know how much of that you just caught, Monica, because I saw you like came in and out. But it was a slow build. It was a slow build of 6 months or so, one tez at a time, one collector at a time, one conversation at a time. And when I felt like I had a big enough audience, I stabbed out into ETH, and I did really well at first, and then it was a little bit slow, and then I did really well, and then it was a little bit slow. So you know, it came in waves. You know, it wasn't like overnight success over there. I still struggle on ETH sometimes, for sure, especially if I try to do additions. My one-of-one art does pretty well on ETH. But you know, I'm still on tez almost daily. Like tez is still where I prefer to be. I still prefer to do 20 editions of 20 tez because I have an international audience. Like most Westerners don't. I mean, they vibe with it on like the psychedelic thing, right? And they vibe with it on the hippie front, but they don't vibe with what I'm actually doing on a cultural level, like somebody from India or Indonesia or China or Tibet or Japan, actually collecting the work that is really culturally important to them. So that's another thing for me is like, that's way important. So I prefer to be in the trenches, if you know what I mean.
Thank you. Yeah, the spaces are just recording, so she can just listen to the part that she missed. And thank you for your answer. Does anybody want to add anything to that?
I want to ask one question from PaperBuda because in the first of the space, I just checked your object account, and I want to say you said you just look at the acting of the market, and some people offer you, and in a lower price that you put on your pieces. Do you accept your lower price or not? You have a fixed price for your artwork.
Yeah, like with the drop that we're doing today, the way that works is people put in offers, and it's the top 20 offers that'll get accepted above 20 tezos. So if I only have 15 offers at 20 tezos, by the time I'm done with it, those people all get it. And then 5 would go to my team, or 5 would get burned, right? Because we didn't sell it out. In the opposite example, if we had 200 bids and the top 20 bids were all above 300 tez, well, those are the ones that are going to get get accepted, the top 20. And then there's like, we're doing added utility stuff. So the absolute top bidder is going to get the physical with me signing it and sending it to them wherever they're at in the world. And it's a really big print. And it's on canvas, museum quality ink. It's beautiful. And then everybody that is above a certain threshold with those offers, when we close them, we're going to put their names on a wheel and spin that wheel for a chance to get another edition that's physical with signed. So, you know, doing utility stuff like that on Tezos, I love doing that. But to keep things simple, the offer mechanic, the putting in offers, that's something that a lot of artists are doing these days. And it's saying that you're going to accept a certain amount of offers above a certain amount of Tezos after a certain amount of time, right? So you'll see somebody like Desla Crest do that, and he'll get 500 bidders all clamoring to get a 30 edition piece. And so that's an example of somebody with an extreme community, just really going crazy out there. I'm just now experimenting with this, and so I get maybe 20 to 30 or 40 offers on a piece. And so I'm just getting my footing underneath me, trying the mechanic. People like Maxwell Inc. is another person who I can think of that's out there implementing this kind of an offer mechanic on their drop. And it's a great way to do an edition, not do an auction, but allow the market to set the price for you. So it's a really cool in between that I'm seeing a lot of people do. So I'm experimenting with it with my new collection.
So I actually made a small offer. I just want to see if it makes it in the top 20.
Okay. Yeah, we
I
can
am looking to all the collection. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, most of his pieces are
And
so
also, yeah.
expensive.
And also, I
I
am
just
looking, I want
saw
to
that
say,
the price.
Peria, did you get right or me?
Are we all still here? I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Me
Yep,
too.
yep.
I think Peria got right, yeah?
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Dun,
The house. And I want to say something before the Peria come, or maybe a space, finish, because when the house got right, the space become finished. Yeah, I want to say, Anubis, I love also your art, and also I love your psychedelic pattern. I love your art, and I am checking your object account. I want to give some. I want to, have some of your pieces of my collection. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I feel kind of bad because I don't promote my Tez work enough. Like it, you know know what's kind of interesting that isn't really talked about often is the weird psychological switch that happens when you start collecting pieces, whether it's on Ethereum or on Tezos. But if you're an artist first and then you start collecting, you almost kind of neglect your pieces and you just keep wanting to give. I still haven't really found my balance like PaperBuda has between being a collector and an artist. But yeah, it's a shame that I don't promote my work on Tezos enough.
Yeah, by the way, it's a really beautiful collection. I am looking at all of them. Yeah, it's a very nice collection.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Paya, are you here or not?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I
Yes.
think we are just going to listen to Terry and finish the space because I'm rugging so bad and I don't want to the space being finished without saying goodbye.
Hi, thank you. I just want to say this has been a most amazing space. I so enjoyed the conversation. I regret not coming in earlier, but I'll definitely listen to the recording. The culture, I think the discussion on culture for the Tezos community is so important, and it's also important. And I'm so glad these spaces are being recorded, that it adds to our history. Personally, I don't want to mint on other blockchains. I love this community, and that's why I put my work on it. Such great stories. PaperBuda, Anubis, Myknash, hey, great to see you. And you all, like Magic Lord and Paradise, this is phenomenal. I just want to thank you all for doing this. And again, we should figure out a way to, collectively document our history or put something down. Sorry, I don't mean to be the historian, but I just think it's so important because we're such a unique space. We're such a unique marketplace, and we have such great culture here. So again, thank you for inviting me to say a few words.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining. And for those who doesn't know, we will have such a spaces on every Saturdays and Wednesdays. So you can just join us and talk to different people. Actually, my inspirations in Web3, because I want all people to make their connections. And it is not just an AMA space. It is just to make your connections and know about different types of visions in this market, because all of us have our own visions about this market, and it is so cool to get to know each other. And that's the reason that I'm holding such a spaces with dear Paradise. She's helping me a lot in this journey. And all these spaces are going to be on YouTube as well. I just record them and put them there, because after 30 days, Twitter just delete all these spaces. I just save them there, so you can easily go there and find other spaces there as well. And thank you for joining me. I had lots of questions
questions, but I'm dragging badly and I don't want to go without saying goodbye. But thank you, and I really appreciate your time and your help. Thank you, and goodbye from me.
Thank you, Perijan. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Nice to meet you, PaperBuda, Myknash, Anubis, and every beautiful souls that we are here with us from the first of the space. It was a very great space. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Okay, bye-bye, bye-bye. Catch you later.
Bye bye.